There's a reason why the same problems keep appearing in your life. The same relationships that fall apart in the same way, the same struggles with money, the same feelings of regret, self-sabotage, or stagnation. You might think it's just bad luck, that you haven't met the right person, found the right job, or had the right opportunity. But if the same issues keep repeating, there's something deeper at play. Carl Jung had a name for this phenomenon: fate. But not in the way most people think of fate, as some predetermined script you are doomed to follow. Jung believed that what we call fate is often just our unconscious patterns playing out over and over again. As he famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This means that the things you believe are just happening to you, heartbreak, failure, disappointment, might actually be happening through you. Not because you consciously choose them, but because your unconscious mind is running the show. Beliefs, fears, and wounds you haven't faced are shaping your reality. Most people don't realize this. They live their lives on autopilot, thinking they're making new choices when, in reality, they're following the same script. They leave one toxic relationship only to end up in another. They quit a job because of a terrible boss, only to find themselves in the same situation at their next job. They promise themselves they'll stop procrastinating, but the cycle repeats. It's as if some invisible force is keeping them trapped. But it's not fate in the mystical sense, it's their unconscious mind. Jung believed that deep within us there are hidden forces shaping our reality. Childhood experiences, unresolved traumas, and suppressed emotions. These forces don't just disappear. They manifest in the way we act, the people we're drawn to, the opportunities we push away, and the habits we can't break. Take, for example, someone who grew up in a household where expressing emotions was discouraged. As an adult, they might find it difficult to connect with others on an emotional level. They might attract partners who are similarly emotionally distant, reinforcing the belief that emotional intimacy is unsafe or unattainable. This pattern can lead to a series of unfulfilling relationships, where the person feels perpetually disconnected and misunderstood. Or think about a person who experienced financial instability during their childhood. They might develop an unconscious belief that money is scarce and difficult to obtain. As adults, they might struggle with financial decisions, either by overspending in an attempt to fill an emotional void, or by being overly frugal and fearful of losing what they have. This scarcity mindset can lead to chronic financial stress and a sense of never having enough, regardless of their actual financial situation. Another example we can look at is someone who says they want success but keeps sabotaging themselves. They miss deadlines, make excuses, or procrastinate to the point of failure. They might think they just lack motivation, but if they dig deeper, they might discover that they grew up in an environment where successful people were criticized or seen as arrogant. Maybe they were told that if they succeeded, others would envy or reject them. So, deep down, they associate success with danger, and without realizing it, they sabotage themselves to stay safe. Jung believed that these unconscious patterns are not random. They are clues pointing directly to the hidden beliefs, wounds, and fears that control us from the shadows. And until we bring them to light, they will continue to shape our lives, no matter how much we try to change on the surface. So, how do you break free? The first step is shadow work. Jung believed that shadow work, confronting the unconscious aspects of yourself, was essential to breaking these patterns. The shadow is everything you suppress, everything you deny about yourself, everything you don't want to admit is there. It's the fear, shame, insecurities, and buried trauma, and as long as it stays hidden, it controls you. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul." And that's what most people do. They distract themselves with work, relationships, social media, anything to avoid looking inward. They blame others, they rationalize their choices, but real change only happens when you're willing to face what's inside. So where do you start? A powerful way to begin is by identifying recurring themes in your life. What are the patterns that keep showing up? What types of people are you drawn to? What situations keep repeating? What emotions do you avoid? For example, if you always end up in relationships where you feel abandoned, ask yourself, what belief is driving this? Did you experience abandonment as a child? Did you learn that love is inconsistent? Are you subconsciously choosing partners who reinforce this belief? If you struggle with money, ask yourself, what's your relationship with wealth? Were you raised in an environment where money was a source of stress? Were you taught that being wealthy is greedy or selfish? If so, you might be sabotaging yourself without realizing it. Jung also believed that dreams were a gateway to the unconscious. Your dreams often reveal what your conscious mind refuses to see. Pay attention to recurring symbols, emotions, and scenarios in your dreams. They can offer clues about what's buried beneath the surface. For instance, a person who constantly dreams about being chased might be avoiding something important in their waking life. A dream about a locked door could symbolize a part of themselves they refuse to explore. Jung saw dreams as messages from the unconscious, waiting to be understood. Another powerful approach is to embrace what you resist. If you avoid confrontation, if you always play the role of the peacemaker, ask yourself why. What part of yourself are you afraid of expressing? If you keep sabotaging relationships the moment they get too deep, what fear is making you run? Jung believed that the parts of ourselves we reject hold immense power. By integrating them, by accepting and understanding them, we regain control over our lives. Imagine someone who prides themselves on being nice. They never get angry, never say no, and always put others first. But deep down, there's resentment, exhaustion, and a feeling of being taken advantage of. Their shadow is their hidden aggression and suppressed needs. And until they acknowledge it, they will continue to feel drained, taken for granted, or resentful without understanding why. Breaking free from these cycles doesn't happen overnight. It requires deep inner work, radical self-honesty, and a willingness to face what you've been avoiding. But the alternative is far worse. Repeating the same painful mistakes over and over, convinced that life is happening to you, when, in reality, you're creating it. Jung's insight wasn't just theoretical. We see it everywhere. People who leave one job because they hate their boss, only to find themselves in the same toxic environment at their next job. People who fear abandonment, and because of that fear, act in ways that push others away. People who say they want success but deep down don't believe they're worthy of it, so they procrastinate, self-sabotage, and let opportunities slip by. Nothing changes until you take responsibility, until you stop blaming fate, bad luck, or other people and start looking inward. Because the uncomfortable truth is, if a problem keeps showing up in your life, you are the common denominator. Jung's philosophy offers a path forward. Make the unconscious conscious. Face the parts of yourself that scare you. Take responsibility for your patterns, and most importantly, understand that you are not doomed to repeat the past. The moment you become aware of the script running your life, you gain the power to rewrite it. So ask yourself, what mistake do you keep repeating? What truth are you avoiding? What part of yourself have you buried? Because until you face it, it will continue to rule you from the shadows. But the moment you bring it into the light, everything changes.